off the intro to all my first 200 shows. So
No way. Oh my gosh.
isn't that crazy?
We're going to have some kitties visiting us. I hope you don't mind kitties.
I love kitties. They love pets. Pets. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world. Before I introduce today's guest chef, I want to let you know you have 36 hours left to buy the book and get the bonuses. You have more than 36 hours to buy the book, but if you want to get all the wonderful bonuses that we created, like the audio files for free, so you don't need to buy the book on Audible when it comes out, which will be very soon, and a lot of bonus recipes that were not in the book only because we just didn't have time. We had to get the book out, and my exclusive double frosted vanilla carrot cake, including a video tutorial. Simply buy the book by midnight on Sunday, October 18th. Email us your receipt to chefajbonus@yahoo.com, and we will get those bonuses right to you. Without further ado, today's guest chef, I met him during a thing that I was doing for Dr. Doug Graham, who I'd love to have on the show one day, by the way, but I'm booked to March 22nd. And it's a show that he has for free on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. called Let's Cook Raw. If you want more information on that, I can tell you about it. And I said to everybody that was doing it, I said, guys want to come on the show? He's the only one that contacted me. He seems like a lot of fun. His name is Chris Kendall, and he's going to be making Chris's Creamy Curry. Welcome, Chris. It's so nice to see you.
So stoked to be on here. Thanks so much for inviting us all. I can't believe I'm the only one here, but geez, I want to connect with you and with everyone here who's watching today and watches all your amazing content. I feel blessed to be here.
Where are you broadcasting from?
You know, I'm broadcasting live from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, home of the Great White North and sweaters that are also called bunny hugs.
And you got a kitty on the counter. We love pets on this show.
We always have kitties on the counter here. It's very cold, so I will distract myself by closing the window when they come off their cat balconies. Just, this is the walkway to their cat balcony, so I can't, obstruct that.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to know more about you. How long you've been a chef, why you chose raw, how long you've been vegan. Tell us everything before you start the recipe. Oh, and somebody already knows you. Gina says, I love this chef. And Diane says, cool looking dude. So you got some admirers.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It seems like it's been a lifetime, but it's been since about 2000 that I really started changing my diet. Before that, I was a skateboarder looking to be a professional and doing anything but eating health food. I was just drinking and smoking and eating fast food nonstop, started falling apart and saw a real need to change things up. So I found yoga, which kind of led me to literature that talks about healthier eating and vegetarianism and karma. And I just really started taking it on. The first big book I saw was Fit for Life. And that was now over 20 years ago. And it completely changed my world. I started food combining. I started eating fruit for breakfast, slowly moving towards vegan. It actually took me about 3.5, 4 years to go vegan. So I've been vegan for 16 and a half years now. No, 17 years now. And it was when I went vegan, I was in school for holistic nutrition at a school called Canadian School of Natural Nutrition, CSNN. And, before that, I really wanted to be a chef. I always liked making food. I made food for all my friends, but I couldn't find a chefing school at that time, around 2004, that was a vegan chefing school, right? So instead, I went to the nutrition, and during nutrition training, I went to a vegan festival and met Dr. Doug Graham, just as you mentioned. And so that's been 16 years ago. I met Doug and I went raw overnight. And the first 5 years of being a raw foodist, I just poured a ton of time and energy into making tons of different raw food dishes. Started the rawadvantage.com 11 years ago and launched my first recipe book, which was met to pretty wide acclaim and picked up by the people at the Woodstock Fruit Festival. And so I've been the head chef at the Woodstock Fruit Festival most of the years of the last decade, and became known as a world-renowned raw food chef because of that, because they really launched me into the big spotlight with everyone else. And, so it's been now 16 years raw vegan and 17 and a half vegan.
That's incredible. Well, Nicole says, Chris also makes the best raw pizza on the planet, and I highly recommend his recipe book. That's pretty cool. Tell us a little bit more about this this Woodstock Fruit Festival.
Well, the Woodstock Fruit Festival is the longest running, biggest raw food festival in the world. Like most festivals, they took this last summer off, but the 10th anniversary will be coming in 2021. It's in upstate New York, and it's awesome. It's like a raw food party with over 600 people, tons of long-term raw food enthusiasts, kindred spirits coming together just to enjoy a healthy raw food diet, along with just all the lifestyle factors that really plus up your nutrition and your whole healthy lifestyle.
So you went raw so quickly. You didn't even have a transition of like being a regular vegan or a junk food vegan. You kind of went right to raw.
Well, kind of yes, kind of no, because it was like a 3.5, 4 year transition from total junk food, like drink or smoker, to a whole foods high raw vegan. And when I went vegan, I was already eating fruit for breakfast and fruit for lunch. I was just having some cooked dinners that sometimes included some animal products. And I went when I went vegan, it was about 6 months where I was basically just high. What do they call? They call raw till four typically now these days, right? So I was basically raw till four for about 6 months. Then I met Doug, and then it was just overnight right into all raw.
That's amazing. I did raw for a couple of years and I think it's great. The biggest problem I had is I never slept. You have so much energy when you don't eat cooked food. It's like you don't need sleep.
Yeah, you can bounce off the walls. And, I really did notice myself that for, a good like 4 to 6 months, I wasn't sleeping quite as well. And after that, I started to sleep a lot better. And these days I love sleep. Like I try and get a good 8 or 9 hours if I can, but the more I exercise, the more I need, of course. And, I love it. Nothing compares for me. And that's what keeps me on the track. I've been 100% raw for, I think the longest stretch was about 5, 6 years. And now I'd say I'm like 99% raw. And that's what I've been most of the time. As with this recipe, there is one thing that is on the hazy ground. And of course, I use some spices and stuff, which are questionably raw, but I like to make up the vast majority of my diet with 100% raw foods.
You don't find that where you are, you get too cold eating 100% raw?
No, I did in the first year and a half, and my feet would get cold as my circulation improved. But what I found was after that period of time and just getting used to a slightly lower body temperature, because most people who are 100% raw, they actually sit about a degree cooler, and they usually are more well hydrated, really hydrated with high water content foods, so that they can feel a little colder at first. But after that initial break-in period, I felt totally normal. And if it was extra cold, then sometimes I might just get some extra exercise or wear a little bit of extra clothing, or I like to make warm stuff still. Some people think raw food is just eat cold stuff or room temperature stuff all the time. But I like to blend, hot water with dates and some carob or cacao and make like a hot chocolate. So I used to actually work outside doing construction in -40 weather as a 100% raw foodist. And I did fine. I just dressed appropriately and ate enough calories to make sure I was really nice and warm.
That's great. And tell us about your tattoos, because we know what every tattoo has meaning.
Well, I got a lot of different tattoos. I can't even say how many. I don't know the count, but I know I have over 90 hours of tattoo work on my body.
Oh,
So I'll show you the first one here. I'll get nice up and close and personal. Got the banana mustache, if you can see it. It's just banana mustache going on. And I got the vegan one, so I'm in there for life. That one's up and down, back and forth. I got love and faith on my wrist. And then I got double dragons, dragon up this arm, and then a dragon on my chest going down this arm. My entire back is a phoenix with the chakra symbols going anatomically correct on each chakra. Got some chest pieces, got a banana down here. And
yeah, that's the one we want to see.
You want to see? Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. This is a children might be. I'm just teasing.
I'm sorry.
No,
I do have videos of some of my tattoos. So if you check out my YouTube channel, The Raw Advantage,
what's your
got a couple
YouTube
different
channel?
videos.
What's your
The Raw Advantage?
Raw Advantage, great.
Yeah.
We'll link to everything in the show notes. Well, I love curry, so I love that you're making this recipe.
Yeah, I think I was, I love curry too. I think I was an Indian in a last life. I absolutely love it. I could have this all the time. And truthfully, this recipe I'm going to share today is my third version of this. The first time I made it, it was called Cocoa Butter Veggies, and that was a decade ago, and it was my favorite recipe. And about 2 years ago, I kind of updated it and made the 2.0, which is, I think, a little bit healthier and more accessible and easier and cheaper to make. And just recently, I actually updated it to version 3.0. So this is probably my most eaten raw recipe for the last 2 years.
Wow. Well,
at least, yeah.
Yeah.
Should we dive right in? You guys want to learn all about this Chris's Creamy Curry?
You bet.
All right. Awesome. Well, the base of this recipe is just with 3 simple ingredients. And, this is kind of, some ingredients that some raw foodists don't eat a lot of, and that other people like, say, Dr. Greger really promotes heavily. what I've really found is some of these ingredients, if you start with a little bit and slowly increase, your microbiome adjusts and you feel more comfortable eating larger amounts and digesting it easier. I'm just bringing that up because I know some raw foodists that just eat fruit and greens and have a hard time eating things like cauliflower or mushrooms, which I absolutely love and can be really delicious. So the main components of this curry, it's kind of like a mix between aloo gobi, if anyone's had aloo gobi, that used to be my all-time favorite, and butter chicken, but of course without the butter or the chicken. Originally I was going to call it no butter, no chicken curry, but that's not as, it doesn't roll off the tongue so smoothly. So I want to let you know that this recipe, it does actually start the night before, and this is just one texture trick that I really like to use and can be used on a ton of different vegetables, and I find makes a huge difference. It actually made it so that my raw curries went from, yeah, I like them, to like, wow, I like this better than any cooked curry. No word of a lie. So it's going to start the day before with cauliflower. So we're starting off with about 3/4 pound or 345 grams of cauliflower. Now that's fresh cauliflower right here. But what we did is I chopped it up into nice little bite-sized pieces and I put it in the freezer overnight. Now, by putting it in the freezer overnight, the water in it expands and ruptures the cell walls. So when you thaw it out, it softens it and it actually tastes and appears to be cooked. And it digests a little bit easier too. So it's kind of a neat little process that I love to do. So here we have that same amount of cauliflower that I actually froze last night, and I just let it thaw on the counter. Sometimes when I'm in a rush, I'll just thaw it under some warm water, or otherwise I might put it in my dehydrator at a low temperature like 105 or 108 and just let it warm up over a couple of hours. But we'll start with that. We have the cauliflower and we'll just put it in this big bowl. You can see it's really nice and soft and tender, just breaks apart. Most people wouldn't even realize that it's not cooked, which is kind of fun. The next ingredient.
Yeah, that's a cool, did you figure that technique out yourself? The freezing and the...
Yeah, I can't say that I own it because I'm sure people have been freezing, have discovered it, but I've never seen any chef or raw chef promote it ever, and I did find it out by myself. And it's kind of fun because certain ingredients like cauliflower or broccoli or even Brussels sprouts work amazingly with it. Mushrooms soften up and kind of get moist, almost like they're stewed. Onions, when you freeze them and thaw them, they almost seem like they're sauteed. I've done other ones like asparagus, which is on the fence, and cabbage. I tell you, you finely shred cabbage, freeze it, thaw it, and it tastes like you just steamed or boiled a whole bunch of cabbage, but there's more nutrition intact because you're not losing it in the water.
One question Susan is asking about raw mushrooms, because I know there's been some doctors that say that mushrooms are one thing that shouldn't be eaten raw.
Absolutely. And, that's a subject that I've really looked deeply into because I do eat a lot of mushrooms. I love them. They're the only foodborne source, it's a vegan foodborne source of vitamin D. And when I looked into the study, because, very often in nutritional science, we get a study, we get some information, and someone hears it, and then they just repeat it without even really looking deeply into the study. And I won't say that I've read every study that's ever been done, but I've read multiple studies that have been referenced by very well-known doctors saying that we shouldn't be eating raw mushrooms. And when you actually look at the science, what it shows is that those studies are based on rats or mice given an isolate of one compound found in mushrooms, and it's called argatine, or I'm not pronouncing that right, but agaritine, one compound in isolate form in the quantities equivalent to a year's worth of mushrooms in one day. And then it was found to be potentially carcinogenic or problematic, right? So myself, I know I'm not going to be eating that much in an isolate form. I'm eating a whole food, and we know that almost any food has some kind of a compound in it that if you isolate it and put it in that huge of a quantity can cause issues. Mushrooms, like most other foods that are self-delimiting, meaning, oh, hey, Katie, if you start eating them, you stop enjoying them far before any kind of a toxic low to be reached. It's the same with say spinach or any other kind of really harder green that could actually have some compounds at large quantities causing issues, but no one eats them in that quantity. So I myself am not concerned about mushrooms at all. I usually actually like to put them in the dehydrator, like slice them up and put them in the dehydrator for an hour or two, which does actually decrease the arginine. Also transport and time since picked decreases the agartine, and heat does as well. And that's why some people say that you should cook it. But I've been eating a lot of raw mushrooms over the years, and I feel amazing. And all my tests, and including kidney and all those kind of tests, show really good results. So hopefully that helps that question a bit.
Great, thank you.
So we have mushrooms, and we're going to do roughly the same quantity of the three main ingredients, being the cauliflower and now the mushrooms. So with the mushrooms, I have 12 regular size cremini mushrooms. I will say that some mushrooms are higher in that compound than others. Cremini, button mushrooms, portobello mushrooms are typically the ones I use the most. I sometimes use shiitake and occasionally use oyster, although oyster are kind of on that edge. And I would say too, you know what, if you are concerned about it, just lightly roast your mushrooms or dehydrate them at a really high temperature, or even put them out in the sunlight when it's nice and sunny out, because it's been shown that putting mushrooms under a UVB light or under the sun increases the vitamin D content so much that a handful can become a vitamin D supplement. So that's kind of a neat little fact as well. But these ones I didn't put in the dehydrator, just to show that you don't necessarily have to. I'm just cutting them up into quarters by putting them on their backside and then cutting them from the stem end down into quarters. If you like smaller chunks, you can cut them into 6s or 8s. But this is usually how I do it. It's kind of nice too, when you put them in the dehydrator for an hour, maybe 2 hours at around 115, 118, they just shrink up a little bit. They get a little bit more kind of juicy and firm, and their flavor is just that much more pronounced. Another little trick with mushrooms as well is you don't really want to wash them, but instead you can take a damp paper towel and just kind of dab on them, and that way they don't suck up the moisture from the water, but you can clean them off. So there we go. We have our mushrooms in there. And the next ingredient is one that I'm going to give a few options for. And for what I used here today is the only real thing in here besides some spices that isn't technically 100% raw. So that one here is actually some green peas. So these ones are frozen peas, and frozen vegetables are typically blanched, which means they're put under hot water, boiling water for 1 to 3 minutes to retain color and flavor. So these guys were just thawed out green peas that I took out this morning and let sit on the counter until they're nice and thawed. Again, sometimes I might just run them under hot water or otherwise put them in the dehydrator at a low temperature for a while. If you can find fresh green peas, which everyone knows are really crunchy and delicious, you can use those fresh green peas, or you can use that same freezing technique. Because if you freeze fresh potted peas, they turn out really soft and delicious and almost seem like they're cooked. Another option instead of peas, you could sprout lentils. You know, I love to sprout brown lentils, green lentils, even red lentils if they're whole. And that makes an amazing addition to this as well. So this is about the same weight or same quantity. We're looking at about 1.5 cups here of green peas. And I'm just going to pour that on over top of this. So in the big bowl, we have the frozen thawed cauliflower, the mushrooms, which I typically dehydrate, and the peas. Next, we're going to get into the sauce. And that's the fun part, right? Because everyone knows it's all about the sauce. Are you a sauce lover?
I love sauce. That's the secret to everything, I think, is sauce.
It really is. And, you know, I'm going to just shamelessly plug something real quick. I got a really fun dressings book. But something else that I'm really proud of is actually a book called Naturally Raw Some Sauces. And the entire intention of that is to turn you into a raw vegan sauce chef. It gives you all the tricks and tips into making tons of different types of sauces. And it just really can make the biggest difference, because you can put good sauce in almost anything and that meal's awesome. But if you don't know how to make a sauce, then you can feel like you're just eating bland food all the time. So that's something that I really like to showcase and share. But getting into this sauce, it uses a little trick that I use sometimes that is different from the first two versions. And what that is I'm starting off by making a broth. So you might ask, what is a raw food broth? A raw food broth is really just a raw food juice. So I'm just making some juice, and you can use any kind of root vegetables or vegetables to make a juice as the base of your sauce. And that way it just makes it a lot more rich and smooth and creamy, because my first one was actually made with coconut milk. Second one was just made with water blended with a bunch of stuff. And then this one utilizes some carrot juice. So I have about a pound of carrots, or 4 to 5 carrots here. And I'm just going to chop them up roughly. For some different sauce recipes, like a Thai kind of a recipe, I might make a broth out of carrots and celery and some lemongrass. And that can be the base of a nice curry sauce, or even a nice Thai curry soup, right? But this one starts off with these carrots. So I'm just going to take this Vitamix jug here and put all the carrots in there. Now, you might be saying, what? I thought you were making a juice. Why are you using the Vitamix? I'll be honest, I'm a little lazy. I do have a juicer, but I just find blending it with the Vitamix and then putting it through a nut milk bag to be actually easier and less cleanup. It definitely has a little less nutrition with the oxidization, depending upon the juicer you'd have. But again, I'm a little lazy. I just find it works really well and really quick. So, you know what? I apologize. I forgot one thing. I'm going to have to run and get my tamper. So
go ahead. I'll entertain everyone.
All right.
So how was everybody doing today? I'll just do a shameless plug because I'm really happy the book is doing well, and I appreciate you guys' support. The bonuses are really good, I'm told. Well, yeah, I've listened to the book on tape. It's even more fun than reading it. So that's why you want to get it now, because I know what's going to happen. Like 1201, we're going to get all these things. Please, is it too late? Yeah, it's too late. We had somebody on the first book 2 years later send us their receipt asking for the bonuses. We won't have them after. So get them now. Thank you very much. Joy says, I hate cleaning the juicer too. What kind of juicer do you have? I have the Champion juicer, and I love using it to make banana ice cream.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's good. I love banana ice cream too. You know, I actually don't even know the name of it, but I know that it's like a knockoff, looks like one of the better kind of Omega or Champion juicers. It's a centrifugal, slow turning one that kind of crushes it against the screen. And it makes good quality juice, but geez, it takes time to clean up, right? So that's why I end up using this one instead. And a good nut milk bag is so versatile. You know, you can really use it for a lot of different things, whether you're making some like, you know, nut cheeses or broths or juices, anything like that. So we'll just plug your ears, guys. I apologize. This Vitamix, that's one thing that I wish it could improve on, is just being, you know, silent, but it's pretty noisy. So I'm just going to blend this up, and I'm going to really tamper it hard so it becomes really into a nice mush mix. So there we go. And all we got to do is have a nice bowl ready and dump as much of this as you can into the nut milk bag. Sometimes it doesn't want to come out at all. Sometimes it does. And I really don't mind if there's a little bit of carrot pulp left in the blender. I just want to get the absolute biggest quantity of that out. There we go. So that's not too bad. And then we'll just squish that nice, fresh, sweet carrot juice. And that's one of the things that this really adds to the recipe, is one, of course, lots of awesome nutrition from the carrots, high in vitamin A and nice and sweet and natural sweetness. But it also food combines a little bit better. I am a proponent of food combining, but I don't always to a T. And my version before this actually utilized water with dates as kind of the main sweetener, whereas this, the carrot juice, is going to be a little bit better in strict food combining principles anyhow. So there we go. So we squeeze that out, and we'll add this back to the blender and hope that we have around 1 cup.
Wow. So you didn't, there's a question if you used any water. You didn't with the carrot, right?
Nope, none at all. So it's awesome. That's really exactly 1 cup, which is about 1 pound of carrots. And, depending on the carrot sizes, that could be anywhere between 2 to 6 or 7 carrots, right? So that's going to be the base of our sauce. So we have the beautiful carrot juice in there. To that, we'll actually add our seeds. So I like to mix it up. And some people don't like to mix different seeds, but I find when it's blended all together, it works really well. And there's different nutrients in each of these seeds that I really like, and different flavors. And I found this flavor combination to be my favorite. So what we actually have here is 1/8 cup of pumpkin seeds, of course, nice and high in zinc. We have 1/8 cup of flax seeds, really nice and high in lignans and in omega-3s. And then we have 1/8 cup of one of my all-time favorites, hemp seeds. Super nice, good amino acid profile, and just really, really nutritious in general. So we're going to put those in there.
Chris, a few questions on what kind of nut milk bag are you using, and if a nut milk bag is easy to clean?
The nut milk bag is pretty easy to clean. Some people like to save the fiber and use it for like crackers or other things like that, or even feed it to animals and stuff like that. Really, all you have to do is just turn it inside out and just tap it out and then run it under some warm water. It takes maybe 30 seconds to a minute. And I really apologize. I wish I knew the exact name brand of this one that I have, because it is a good one. It was given as a gift, and I threw away the wrapper. So I apologize, but I will look it up, and I'll ask to put it into the show notes below.
Thanks. You know what I use for a nut milk bag is a paint strainer bag from the hardware store for 99 cents.
No way.
It's so much cheaper, and they're so much bigger, so I can do a lot with it.
Yeah, do big recipes then. In a pinch, I've used a t-shirt, like a nice, really clean t-shirt, and I've even used like a non-synthetic, non-dyed pantyhose, which works all right. Of course, you don't want to use used ones.
Yeah, you don't want to use it while the person's still wearing it.
No, exactly. Unless maybe it's just for you and you're making for yourself and you don't care, right? But it can get a little hazy there. So to this beautiful broth, we'll add about 1 pound of tomatoes. And, I'm a big fan of tomatoes. I love tons of different varieties of tomatoes. And if you don't love tomatoes, I highly encourage you to try out some different varieties, maybe some heirloom ones, and especially homegrown ones, because the flavor from the store to home is so different. And any recipe you make that has tomatoes in it, the quality of the tomatoes is going to make it, So I usually will go to my way to try and get really good quality tomatoes. Often the greenhouse grown kind of smaller Campari tomatoes or grape tomatoes are even more flavorful. And you can really use any variety you want. These are just some typical Canadian greenhouse grown vine tomatoes, and they are quite good. So I'm putting about 1 pound of those tomatoes in there. Let's see. Next, what are we going to put in there? We'll put in the green onions. So I have 3 green onions, roughly about 50 grams. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just throw the bottom white part right in the blender. The Vitamix is so powerful, it will just chew it completely up. Next, I'm going to put in a thumb of ginger. I absolutely love ginger. Nice anti-inflammatory properties and high in different minerals. So I just throw the whole thing in there too. This is my laziness coming through. There is a lot of nutrition in the skin, and I opt usually for organic. You just put that in the whole thing in the blender. And I will do a little bit of garlic. So 1 clove of garlic. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people are afraid of it because of the antibacterial or antibiotic properties. But it is really interesting to note too that garlic, as well as onions, have a fiber in them known as aniline, which is a prebiotic fiber, meaning it actually feeds certain biotics in your microbiome, so it can help rebalance your microbiome. So I like garlic on occasion, and it's really good in this recipe, being nice and authentic. So we're going to put that in there, and then we're going to go into Spice Town. Now, the spices you put into this recipe will really determine the major curry flavor, and I've made it with hundreds, literally hundreds over the last 10 years I've been making curries, of different types of curry powders. And every time it's different. Some of my absolute favorites would be like Ethiopian Berber or Berber. It's like one of my favorite curries ever. Or even just like a Madras curry, Bombay curry. There's so many different types. So, this one here that I have is just a really standard, basic kind of grocery store medium curry, which does pretty good. But you can decide what your favorite curry is and use it. So, do you have a favorite curry, by the way?
I love a company that's in Northern California called Local Spicery. I've had him on the show a few times. His name is Nick DeVoren, and his spices are just so good. Mostly organic, non-irradiated, small glass jars. So I love all of his spices.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, good spices can totally make a dish and just change. Like, you could be eating the same thing and use a different spice, and it's a totally different experience, right?
They even have a spice called pepperoni spice. It's not real pepperoni, but it tastes like it.
I got to get my hands on that because I tell you, I know you mentioned it earlier, my Frickin' Rawson pizza book. I do have a raw vegan pepperoni pizza in there that tastes pretty legitimate like a pepperoni pizza. And one of the secret ingredients that my girlfriend Camilla actually tipped me off to was a bit of fennel in there. Kind of makes it like a slightly salami pepperoni. It's really good. But I'd love to try it with that spice. So I'm gonna have to ask you for that address as well.
Absolutely. Maybe he'd even send you some if you promoted it on the show or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Always down to check out and promote some different stuff that I really would like.
Does your girlfriend eat like you?
She's actually a raw food chef, and we met in Bali at a raw food culinary course. And she eats high raw, but doesn't eat all raw. We were both in a motorcycle accident 2 years ago and actually almost died. And during that time of recovery, she refound her love for toast. And so, yeah, we eat a lot of the same things, but she eats high raw vegan.
Nice.
And she's an amazing chef too. So we like to make food for each other.
What do you like, for instance, what does a day's worth of eating look like for you?
Well, I am a high fruit, low fat raw foodist. I'm not fat phobic, so there might be some days where I could have 20 to 30% fat in my diet. But in general, I'm usually keeping it under 20, under 15%, generally around the 80-10-10 guidelines that Dr. Douglas Graham promotes in his book, The 80-10-10 Diet, which I love. And I think is one of the best books, if not the best book on raw food nutrition out there. So that being said, usually, I've been doing this 16 years. So when I first started, I used to eat 3 or 4 meals a day, but over the years, it became bigger meals less often. So more often than not, I'm actually only eating 2 meals a day. And if I'm eating 2 meals, that might be like a giant 2-liter banana smoothie for lunch, and it might have some greens in it. I really love barley grass juice powder. Sometimes I like arugula in my banana smoothie or spinach, but it's a big banana smoothie, anywhere from 15 to 18 bananas. And I feel great with that. I'm full for 6 hours and I'm really charged up. And then dinner, oftentimes I'll start it off with like some orange juice or maybe even some watermelon, depending on how active I am. And then I'll follow it up with something like a curry or a big salad or, a wrap or anything like that. Usually a savory dinner meal with a bit of fat at the end of the day. And my salads are big. They're big, like 5-pound salads.
I love that you're doing savory.
I love savory. I eat more vegetables than most people I know. And like usually I'm eating at least 2 to 5 pounds of veggies a day, and that's a mix though. Like it might be a pound or so of greens, and then it might be a pound of broccoli or, peas, or it could be cauliflower, any of these different ones. I eat a lot of tomatoes, they're culinary wise a vegetable, but botanically a fruit, but I enjoy those a lot, and zucchinis and cucumbers. But I just think the greens and the veggies are so important. And that's one thing that some raw foodists kind of get into trouble with, is not eating enough greens and thinking just to eat fruits, so that's something that I like to promote, is more vegetables and greens.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because not everybody likes to eat sweet all the time. And most fruit, well, there are some fruits that aren't sweet, but a lot of them are.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's just a good balance. And when we look out to nature, we look at the animals that are the closest to us, they don't just eat fruit. They eat a bunch of greens, and some of them actually eat way more greens than fruit. but the ones we're the closest to, they do eat the most fruit and they still eat a lot of greens. And it's just delicious and tasty. I mean, having a nice big crunchy salad, you know, with a nice dressing or alone, you know, it can be really delicious.
Yep.
So let's get some of these spices in here. I will mention too, there are some optionals, you know, like you could add some lemon juice to this to give it a little bit of an extra zing. If you do apple cider vinegar, you could add a tablespoon of that, whatever really you like to add a little bit of an extra flavor. I like it like this. And the 3 base spices that I put in there are usually curry powder. So I'm going to put 1.5 tablespoons of curry powder. I like it to be nice and flavorful. So I'm just putting about 1.5 in there. And then in Canada, we have chili powder, which isn't just, you know, like ground chilies, but instead it's a mix of like cumin and pepper and garlic and paprika, a whole bunch of different spices, which I really love. Oftentimes, though, when I look in other countries for chili powder, it's just ground chilies. So if you can't find a mixed chili powder, I do have on my website, and you can search it for like a mixed recipe and you can make your own. I have here a chipotle chili powder I absolutely love. So I'm going to actually put a tablespoon of chipotle chili powder, which is going to be very spicy. I like it spicy myself. You can just use plain chili powder if you like. Or the other option that is really delicious is smoked paprika. It's just a really nice flavor as well. And I'm actually going to double it up because I just want it nice and strong and flavorful. This is going to be my dinner today. So I'm going to put a tablespoon of that in there as well. So those are the main spices that I'd say are kind of the base. If you want to take it up an extra notch and add some different stuff in there, you can add, let's see, about 1/4 teaspoon of mustard seeds, which is kind of traditional for East Indian culinary food. So I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to put in 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, just for an extra punch. And turmeric, which I absolutely love as well. So we're going to put a whole teaspoon of turmeric. Boop, boop. And you could otherwise just put a little pinky finger of fresh turmeric. And to really get that curcumin in the turmeric, which is the active component that really helps with inflammation and a whole bunch of other processes, we're also going to put just a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. That really activates that. So we have all of those ingredients in there, and all we have left to do is blend it up. There are a few ingredients left, but we're going to leave them for the very end. So let's blend this up until it's like... I forgot to turn it down first. It's good to turn it down first. Sorry about that. Something neat with the Vitamix, you know, you can blend it till it boils. I'm not recommending that, but if you blend it for a little while, it can get nice and warm. So if you want your curry a little bit warmer, you can just blend it until it's a little bit steamy. I'm going to blend it until it's at least really creamy. So let's take another probably 15, 20 seconds. There we go. I wish you guys could smell this. Seriously, it's like, oh, it's so rich and creamy and just deep curry smell. So what we're going to do then is take a whole head of cilantro. I absolutely love cilantro. Just going to break it up, throw it in there. This is an extra way to get a ton more nutrition, a lot of extra greens. You know, herbs are they are the more nutrient dense of the greens per calorie or per gram.
It's unbelievable how thick you got it, because you really didn't use very much fat. You used like 1/4 cup of seeds. I
used, let's see, just shy of 1/2 cup, because 3/4 cups. So I guess, what is that?
That's 3/4 cup, but still, I mean, it looks amazing and it's so thick.
Yeah, or 3/8 cup.
So that's less than a half a cup. That's
Yes, less than a half a cup. And, I mean, the spices themselves, they thicken it up as well. And I mean, if you want, you could add sun-dried tomatoes, or you could add, something like that to thicken up as well. But the quantities given, it makes a really nice, thick and creamy curry with a really good balance of fats in there. And yeah, not too high, but it's enough to give some extra calories and a lot of nutrition, right? So with these guys here, this is where I like to use the tamper as well, because I don't want to just pulverize the greens. And I also snuck in the green onion tops, just in case you missed it. So it's the whole head of cilantro and the 3 green onion greens. And I'm just going to put this down at about a 4.5 or 5 on the Vitamix. Turn it on and just use the tamper. Get it all in there. And give it a pulse or two. That way, it saves me from chopping and chopping and chopping and chopping. The lazy theme is really coming out today. Sorry about that. So, there we go. And it's very good. Very good.
So Chris, we have a couple of cilantro haters on and wanted to know if they could substitute maybe Italian parsley.
You absolutely could, or you could do basil or basil, however you like to pronounce it, or you don't even need it at all. It's totally fine without the herb. It is interesting with cilantro. It's a genetic disposition. It's a specific gene turned on or off. If you love cilantro, then it's either on or off. If you hate it, it's on or off. It's the other one. So it's not something to force yourself. I've met some people like, I hate it, but I'm forcing myself to like it. It's not worth it. Just enjoy what you enjoy. So here we have it. Are we ready for it to pour on?
You bet.
Look at that. Look how thick and creamy that sauce is. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I do this and then I pour the whole thing into a Pyrex dish and I put the whole thing in my dehydrator and just warm it up a little bit. But we're just going to have this perfectly as is. Stir this up. And this recipe, you might be going, holy cow, that's big. This serves between 1 to 4 people. Like for myself, this is a perfect serving just for me. But for a lot of people, if it's a side dish, it might serve up to 4 or 5 people, really. But again, if you're just starting, if you don't normally eat a lot of raw cauliflower or mushrooms, this might be 2 or 3 portions. It does keep for the next day or 2 at the most. And otherwise, you can make it for a bunch of friends.
That looks so good. And you didn't have to use oil or salt or anything bad.
Nothing at all like that at all. Just all whole foods, a little bit of spices, and it's really rich. It's really creamy. It's really savory. And I tell you, this is one of those cravings buster, satisfying dishes that leaves you feeling like, I don't even eat cooked food in my life. If you have something like this, it's pretty easy.
Wow. You are talented. I can tell. I would love to taste your food. I would eat that.
Well, I hope that I get the chance to serve you some food, whether it be something like this or shepherd's pies or pizzas. And shamelessly, I'll let everyone know I do have a free app with over 100 recipes on it. It's called the Raw Advantage, Raw Recipes, on Android and on Apple. And I got tons more at therawdvantage.com. But I just love sharing this food, just like you. You just made such a difference in my life that I can't help but want to share it and help other people improve their life.
So what are you doing now? Because what's it like up in Canada with the pandemic? You probably can't travel too much, I would imagine.
I'm actually in quarantine right now because I just got back from Sweden, where I'm actually migrating to live full time with my girlfriend, Camilla. And so I'm back here with my family, and I really love it here. I grew up here and got the kiddies and my parents and the whole family. And all I've been doing is behind the scenes work. I'm doing a lot of behind the scenes work on therawdvantage.com to bring people more recipes and easier functionality to get them into their lives. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And otherwise I have an online course, Raw Vegan Lifestyle Success System, which teaches a whole holistic kind of point of view for the raw food lifestyle to help people find more ease in it. Because like you said, it can be kind of challenging for a lot of people, right? So I like to try and make it easier.
They're asking if you could come a little closer to the camera and hold the dish so they can see it and take a picture.
Absolutely.
That looks so good. I want a picture. I want that to be the thumbnail. That's amazing. So Monica says, what is the name of the app?
So the app is called the Raw Advantage Raw Recipes. You put that in there, it'll pop right up. And it is free with over 100 recipes. There's tons of videos in there. And then there also are in-app purchases to unlock my entire recipe books, because I have actually 8 recipe books. I believe 7 of which are on there. So it can have up to like 370 recipes, I think, on the app if you unlock the rest of the books. But like I said, the base functionality and 100 recipes are free on it.
Nice. And Teresa says, how's your mom?
Oh, my mom's doing great. Yeah, she's doing good.
So maybe Camilla would like to be on the show sometime.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I bet you she would. Absolutely. I'll be back in Sweden if all goes well in January, and it sounds like you're booked up until March anyway. Hey.
Oh, but sometimes I get cancellations, so let me know. What do you do in Sweden?
Everything I do is online, right? So I do the recipe books. I do retreats, which I'm usually hold in Costa Rica, but I'm taking a year off with everything going on in the world. And otherwise, I do online consultations and my success system. So wherever I am, I'm working online, just doing the same thing, spreading tasty food and helping people with, the logistics and emotional kind of aspects of applying a raw food lifestyle.
Yeah, well, you seem like a great guy. You're nice and chill. You seem very non-judgmental.
I'd like to be. I don't like to be judged myself, so I really do try to apply the golden rule in my life, and just everyone's my friend. That's the way I look at it, honestly. Every single person's my friend. Maybe they don't think that they're my friend, but I'm going to treat everyone the same and do my absolute best to love everyone equally.
Well, Lori says you have amazing cinnamon buns.
They are darn tasty, I tell you. Yeah, they definitely are.
Wow.
And just so people know too, Excaliburs are on sale right now, 20% off with the code HARVEST20, I think. So if you like to make dehydrated food, that's not even my affiliate link, but you can just go to Excalibur and get 20% off right now.
All right. Diane wants to know what your cats are named. It's so cute how your cats just come and go.
Yeah, they're the absolute best. They're sisters, and one is named Dottie, and the other one's name is Dee Dee.
They're adorable.
They are serious cuddle monsters. All they want to do is just cuddle you and purr, and you call them, they'll come. They're seriously amazing cats, like super cats.
You know what I wonder, like in the vegan, I've been vegan for over 43 years, and there's all different kinds of vegans. People go vegan for different reasons. Their health, the environment, the animals, a combination. And there's vegans that are junk food vegans, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I was one of those for 26 years, and they're vegans that don't eat oil, and there's vegans that don't eat sugar, and vegans that don't eat oil, sugar, and there's all different kinds of vegans, right? And but it seems like with raw food, that's the same way too. You're 80-10-10 like Robbie Barbero and some of the others, but other raw fooders eat things that are different. They might eat a lot of oil and salt and agave. And do you guys get along? Do those two groups get along, or do they fight the way that the vegans fight amongst each other?
I think within any group, there's people that fight amongst each other. Like I said, I love everyone. And if people really want to talk shop, well, of course, I'll share my opinion and my experience and my learning. But that's secondary. To me, it's like, we're all in the same team. Even, no matter what we're eating, we're all in the same team. And so I like to try and bridge the gap and to be friends with everyone. And, I have friends that eat all different types of things, right? I still have friends that drink and smoke and do drugs all the time, right? And I don't try and treat them any different, just try and be the example and have real conversations. That's what I'm about.
Right. Because the one thing I never understood in the more gourmet raw food world is that I've known some raw foodists who like literally will not eat a piece of steamed broccoli, but they'll pour tons of olive oil on their food. And how can they, the way Doug Graham teaches it, it makes health sense. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And, that's what it comes down to, too, is why is the person doing it? And some people, they're raw foodists to be raw foodists. And maybe they subscribe to certain information or philosophy that isn't really updated and true when it kind of comes to scientific backgrounds, right? So, that's, I think, where it kind of comes into it is if someone has a bit of a science mind, or if they're just purely on a philosophical kind of stance or otherwise, right? And I totally agree. I would rather have some very lightly steamed vegetables or steamed vegetables than have a jar of nut butter just to say I'm still raw, So I think that, if you're specifically eating raw for health, then there might be a little bit more leeway because, truthfully, stress comes into it too, and transition comes into it too. And if you're just stressing yourself out, you could be doing yourself more harm staying away from a couple pieces of steamed broccoli than forcing yourself to stay 100% raw.
Right. May we ask your age? Diane, is that inquiring?
Yeah. I'm 40 years old, just this past summer.
Oh my God, you look half.
Oh, thank you. That's kind of you. If hopefully this isn't 4K, because then you might see some of the wrinkles. Although I got scars right on the wrinkle zones. Just kind of fun.
I found your app and I'm getting it right now.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for letting me know about it. Well, you've been a great guest and a lot of fun, and your food looks delicious. So I'd love to have you back sometime, maybe with your girlfriend, or she could do her own episode.
I would absolutely love that. I'd love to be back on myself with my girlfriend and her by herself as well. I'll say 100%. I'd love that.
Well, we love cooking them, and I'm going to definitely try this recipe because it looked amazing. Well, thank you so much, Chris. And everybody check the show notes. We'll have everything in them pretty soon. Chris will send me all the links to his nut milk bag and all of his books and his retreats and whatever else he's up to. Make the recipe. And also come back tomorrow when I have a story of recovery from somebody who had 2 heart attacks and is now completely plant-based and sharing the message. His name is Doug Schmidt. Thanks again, Chris. So nice to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Chef AJ, and everyone here.